The sun rose slowly over the alien city, casting golden light across the silver towers. John opened his eyes in the dark cell. His body ached from the hard stone floor. The chain on his wrist was heavy, reminding him of his new prison beside him. Lyra was already awake. She sat quietly, her silver hair glowing faintly in the dim light that slipped through the bars. Her golden eyes avoided his. She held herself with cold dignity. Even in chains, the guards entered with food, a tray of strange fruits and a bowl of steaming liquid. They shoved it forward and left without a word. John reached for the bowl, but the chain pulled tight, forcing him to move closer to Lyra. She glared at him. "Do not touch my food." John frowned. "It is not your food. It is ours. If we are stuck like this, we might as well eat." Lyra turned her head away, but her stomach betrayed her with a low growl. John gave a small smile and pushed the bowl toward her. She hesitated, then took a sip. Her face softened for a moment. But the wall between them quickly returned. Hours passed in silence. John tried to rest, but his thoughts kept circling. He was a soldier, trained to fight battles, not to survive. Alien laws. The idea of marriage to someone who hated him was almost unbearable. Yet the law was clear. Refuse, and both would die. Lyra finally broke the silence. "Do humans even understand honor?" John looked at her sharply. "Honor? You think I wanted this? Back home, honor means protecting your people, your family, your word. What happened here was an accident. I never meant to shame you." Her eyes hardened. "Accident or not, my people see me as unclean now. You cannot understand the weight of that. Even if I live, I will never be free again." John had no answer. He felt the truth in her words. In her world, she was already marked, and it was because of him that night. Guards entered again. This time, they led them to a larger chamber filled with glowing crystals. At the center was a circle drawn with silver lines. Priests stood around it, chanting softly. The High Elder appeared, his staff glowing with pale light. "You will begin the trial of union," he declared. "The bond must be proven before the council and the people. Without proof, your marriage will be seen as false, and the punishment will be death." Lyra stiffened. "This is cruelty," she whispered. The elder's eyes narrowed. "It is law." The guards pushed John and Lyra into the circle. Their chains were removed, but a glowing band of energy wrapped around their wrists. Linking them again, the priests began their chant. The circle glowed brighter. "Hold her hand," the elder commanded. John hesitated. Lyra's eyes blazed with hatred. But the energy band tightened, forcing their hands together. The crowd gasped. The circle pulsed with light. The elder spoke again. "The bond is weak. They resist each other. If it remains so, they will not survive the next moon." The priests ended the ritual. The energy band dimmed but remained. They were dragged back to their cell. Lyra pulled her hand away the moment they were alone. "Do not think this means anything. I will not accept you." John leaned against the wall. "Exhausted? Fine by me. But if we keep fighting each other, we are both dead." For the first time, Lyra did not answer. She sat quietly, staring at the floor. Days passed. The council prepared for the official binding ceremony. But until then, John and Lyra were forced to live in the same space. Their chain meant they ate together, walked together, even slept close to one another, slowly. The silence between them began to break. John told her about Earth, about blue skies and green fields, about music and laughter. Lyra listened at first with cold eyes, but sometimes her gaze softened. She told him little about herself, only fragments: a father lost in war, a mother who served the council, a childhood filled with strict rules. One night, while they sat near the bars, John said quietly, "I do not know what will happen, but maybe Maybe we can survive this if we stop fighting each other. Lyra's golden eyes met his. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered, "Survive, yes. But do not think survival means I will ever care for you." John gave a tired smile. I would not dare. But deep inside, both of them felt the truth. The bond was growing, slowly, against their will. The next morning, a guard arrived with grim news. "The council has been given evidence that your bond is false. Someone has accused you of planning to escape the law." John and Lyra exchanged shocked looks. Neither of them had spoken of escape, but someone wanted them dead. The guard smirked. "Tomorrow, you will stand trial before all. If the bond is not proven real, you will both be executed." As the door slammed shut, the weight of their fate pressed harder than ever. They were trapped together, hated each other, and yet, only together could they hope to survive. And outside their cell, unseen in the shadows, a figure whispered to another, "Let them try to prove it. In the end, both will fall." The council chamber was louder than before. Voices rose from every corner. Some demanded blood. Others whispered about destiny. The High Elder's staff struck the floor. And the noise faded into silence. John and Lyra were dragged forward. The glowing band still bound their wrists. Their steps were heavy, but their hearts heavier. The accusations against them had spread through the city like fire. "The council has heard grave claims," the High Elder announced. His golden eyes swept over the crowd. "It is said that this human and this child of Lyran blood plot to escape the law, that their bond is false, and their union nothing but a lie." Gasps echoed from the balconies. Lyra's fists clenched. John felt her anger trembling through. The chain, the elder turned to them. "Today you will face the trial of truth. If your bond is real, the law will spare you. If it is false, death will be your only fate." The guards pushed them into the silver circle at the center of the hall. The glowing crystals lit up, humming with strange energy. Priests raised their hands, chanting in low voices. John's chest tightened. He did not understand this magic, this ritual, but he understood the danger. He leaned toward Lyra and whispered, "What do we do?" She did not look at him. Her golden eyes were locked on the elder. "We endure. That is all we can do." The elder lifted his staff. "Step forward and speak your truth." Lyra was pushed ahead first. Her voice was steady, though her hands shook. "I never wished for this. The human is not my choice, but the law binds me. If refusing means death, then I choose life, even if it means standing beside him." The circle pulsed faintly. The priests nodded. Some in the crowd murmured in approval. Others sneered. John was next. He swallowed hard. His voice echoed across the hall. "I did not come here to break your laws. I did not come here to bring shame. It was an accident. But if her life depends on me, then I will not let her face this alone. If survival means standing beside her, then I will stand." The circle glowed brighter. A ripple of light spread outward. The crowd gasped. The energy band tightened around their wrists, linking them closer. But one elder stood and shouted, "Lies. The light does not prove love, it only proves fear. Fear cannot bind them. They must be tested further." The High Elder nodded slowly. "So be it." He raised his staff again. "Bring forth the trial of fire." A section of the floor opened, revealing a pit glowing with molten heat. The air shimmered. Priests placed a silver chain across the fire. It glowed faintly, but did not melt. "The bond is only true if they cross together." The elder declared, "If either falters, the fire will consume them both." Lyra's heart pounded. Her breath came fast. John stared at the fire, sweat already forming on his skin. It was madness, yet the law demanded it. The guards unlocked their ankles, but left the glowing band on their wrists. Forcing them side by side, the elder pointed. Step across, prove your bond, or die. The heat burned against John's skin as they stepped onto the silver chain. It trembled under their weight. The fire below roared. Lyra's hand slipped slightly in his, but the band pulled them back. Together, do not fall. John whispered through clenched teeth. Her voice was sharp. I do not need your help. But the chain shook violently halfway across. Flames leaped higher. John wrapped his arm around her to steady her. For a moment, their eyes met, fear mirrored in both. The crowd held its breath as they reached the other side. Their feet touched. Solid ground, the silver circle flared to life again, brighter than before. The priests raised their voices. The bond endures. The hall erupted with noise. Some shouted in anger, others cheered. The High Elder struck his staff. Enough. The law has spoken. Their bond may be weak, but it is real until the full moon. They will prepare for final union. None may harm them, for their fate is sealed. Lyra's knees nearly gave way. John steadied her without thinking. She pulled away quickly, but her eyes betrayed her confusion for the first time. She had seen his strength not as threat, but as shield, as the guards led them back to their cell. Whispers followed. Some voices spoke of prophecy again, of an old story where two worlds would join. John caught fragments, the union of bloods, the end of war, the rise of peace. That night in the cell, Lyra sat with her back. To him, her voice was low, almost trembling. You risked your life in the fire? Why? John sighed, leaning against the cold wall. Because if you fall, I fall too. We survive together, or we die together. That is the truth. For a moment, the silence between them was softer. Not heavy, not hateful. Just quiet, but outside, in the shadows of the council, the elder who had opposed them spoke to a cloaked figure. They may have survived the trial, but their bond is fragile. Tomorrow, we will break it completely. The city seemed calmer after the trial of truth. But beneath the silence, tension grew. John and Lyra were allowed to leave the prison cell for short walks in the temple gardens. Guards followed them. Everywhere but the walls of stone and glowing trees gave the illusion of freedom. John noticed how people stared. Some spat at the ground when he passed. Some whispered curses. Others simply watched in silence. Lyra walked stiffly, her chin raised, trying to ignore the looks. But he could feel the weight of her shame that night when the moons shone bright. John overheard something. Two guards stood outside their chamber, their voices low, but the words cut sharp. The council says their bond is weak. One guard muttered, if they fail at the final union, both will die. The other laughed bitterly. Good, let the girl fall. She is cursed blood anyway. Her family was always dangerous. John frowned. The words stirred something inside him. He glanced at Lyra, but she seemed lost in thought. Later, when the guards were gone, John asked softly, why did they call you cursed? Lyra froze. Her golden eyes flickered. For a moment, she looked like she would refuse. Then she whispered, because I am not only a council child, I am heir to a bloodline many wish erased. My mother was sister to the queen. That makes me inconvenient. John blinked. So they want you dead. Her voice trembled. Yes. And now you are caught in their game. The next day, the council announced new tests before the final union. They claimed it was tradition, but whispers in the crowd said otherwise. The first test was of unity. John and Lyra were chained at the ankles and forced to move through a maze of shifting walls. Sharp blades jutted from hidden corners. The floor trembled as if alive. John shielded Lyra more than once, pulling her away from danger. She hissed at him to let go, but each time his grip saved her. At last, they emerged, bruised and cut, but alive. The crowd gasped when the circle flared again, proving their survival. The second test was of trust. They were blindfolded and told to cross a bridge suspended over black water. The bridge shook with each step. John guided Lyra's hand. Whispering directions, she resisted at first, but soon followed his voice. Without it, she would have fallen. When they reached the end, her blindfold was removed. She looked at him with something new and certain, but no longer pure hate, but while they struggled in the trials. In the shadows of the council hall, a plot deepened. One elder met with Lyra's cousin, a tall Lyran with cruel eyes. They survived too easily, the elder growled. If they live to the Union, prophecy may come true. We cannot allow that, the cousin sneered. Then we strike before the full moon. I will ensure they never leave the temple alive. That night, as John tried to sleep on the hard floor, Lyra whispered, "Why do you not give up? If you fight this law, maybe your people will save you." John shook his head. "My people signed the peace pact. They will not risk war for one soldier, and besides, if I abandon you, you die. I cannot do that." Lyra turned away quickly. But John thought he saw her shoulders tremble. The next morning, guards escorted them to the outer courtyard. The air was heavy. Priests lined the walls. The high elder raised his staff. Tomorrow is the full moon. The final union will be prepared. The crowd roared. Some cheered, others cursed. But in that same moment, a shadow moved in the high towers. A bowstring pulled tight. An arrow tipped with poison gleamed in the light. John felt something a shift, a prickle at the back of his neck. He grabbed Lyra's arm and yanked her down. The arrow flew past her head and buried into the stone wall with a hiss. The courtyard erupted in chaos. Guards shouted, priests scattered. Another arrow shot, this time aimed at John. He rolled aside, pulling Lyra with him. The assassin vanished into the crowd before anyone could catch him. But the message was clear: someone wanted them dead before the final union. The High Elder's face was pale with fury. "Find the traitor," he commanded, "but hear me all. If harm comes to either of them, the law will curse us all. Until the union, they must be protected." John's chest heaved. He held Lyra close without thinking. Her golden eyes met his, wide with shock. For the first time, she did not pull away that night. In the silence of their guarded chamber, Lyra whispered, "You saved me again," John answered softly. "And I will keep saving you until this is over." Her eyes softened, just for a heartbeat, but then she turned her face away. Do not mistake survival for trust. Human, yet deep in her heart, she knew something had changed. The bond was no longer just chains and law. It was becoming something neither of them could deny. And outside their chamber, hidden in the dark, Lyra's cousin whispered to his ally, "If arrows cannot kill them, then fire will. Tomorrow we strike again." The temple bells rang at dawn. Their deep tones rolled across the city like waves, announcing another day of judgment. John and Lyra were escorted from their chamber, surrounded by guards whose eyes watched every movement. The people had gathered again, whispering, pointing, some with pity, others with hate. John noticed how different Lyra looked today. Her chin was raised higher, her steps sharper, but her golden eyes carried a flicker of unease. He had begun to read her. The way her voice cracked slightly when she was afraid. The way her fists tightened when she tried to hide it. The council chamber glowed with blue fire. Elders sat in a half circle. Their robes shimmered with threads of silver. The High Elder spoke, his voice heavy. "The bond between human and Lyran is not yet proven. We will test it further." John frowned. "Another test? Haven't we shown enough?" But Lyra placed a hand on his arm light. "Quick, almost accidental. Do not argue," she whispered. "The council will twist your words against you." The first trial that day was of endurance. They were forced to stand within a circle of shifting energy. The air grew colder and hotter by turns. Sparks crackled against their skin. John grits his teeth, but Lyra trembled. He stepped closer, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. The crowd gasped, some hissed insults, but the circle steadied, glowing brighter. The elders' eyes narrowed. They endured together. The second trial came swiftly. They were placed in a dark chamber filled with illusions. Whispers slithered around them. John heard his commanding officer's voice, telling him he was abandoned. Lyra heard her mother, accusing her of shame. The illusions clawed at their minds. John almost gave in, but he felt Lyra's hand brush his, tentative but real. The illusions broke apart like smoke. When the chamber opened, the crowd was silent. Even those who despised them could not deny what they had seen. Yet in the shadows behind the council, another game was being played. Lyra's cousin, Kalen, watched with cold eyes. He leaned close to one elder and whispered, "They are surviving too well. If the union is completed, the prophecy may awaken." The elder's mouth tightened. Then they must not reach the full moon that night. John sat awake while Lyra pretended to sleep. He could not stop hearing the whispers from the illusion. His officer abandoning him, his people leaving him behind. He wondered if it might come true. But then Lyra's voice broke the silence. "You heard something, didn't you?" John looked at her, surprised. She was still lying down, her eyes closed. But her voice was steady. "I heard my mother's voice," she admitted. "I have not heard it in years, and it accused me. It said I had doomed our bloodline." John leaned closer. "That was a lie. You've done nothing wrong. You're just trapped in their laws like me." Her eyes opened, golden in the dim light. She studied him as if weighing his truth. For a moment, the air between them felt fragile, almost softer. The next morning, the council gathered them for the third trial. This one was not announced to the crowd. It was secret, hidden. John and Lyra were taken to an underground hall, torches burning along the stone walls. The High Elder's voice echoed, "The bond must be tested with danger. You will face a creature of the depths. Only if you survive together will the union be prepared." From the shadows, a beast crawled forward. Scales black as oil, eyes red like fire. Its hiss rattled the air. John's heart pounded. He had no weapon but a short blade. Lyra had only her sharp staff. They moved apart at first, circling, but the creature struck with lightning speed, forcing them together. John blocked a strike. Lyra countered with a slash for the first time. They fought as one. The beast lunged, knocking John down. Lyra screamed. Without thinking, she drove her staff into its eye. The creature roared. John pushed up and stabbed deep into its chest. The beast collapsed, twitching, then stilled, breathing hard. They leaned on each other. Blood streaked Lyra's face. Sweat dripped from John's brow. They had survived again. But when they returned to their chamber, guards whispering about their victory, John noticed something strange. One of the guards avoided his eyes, clutching a rolled parchment too tightly. Hours later, John caught him slipping the parchment under Kellen's door. John's gut tightened. Something darker was moving here. Not just laws, not just trials, but conspiracy. That night, as Lyra drifted into uneasy sleep, John made a vow in silence. "If they try to kill her again, I will fight all of them." But far in the council hall, Kalen unrolled the parchment. A cruel smile touched his lips. Tomorrow, they will face their final night. They will not live to see the full moon. The temple bells rang at dawn. Their deep tones rolled across the city like waves, announcing another day of judgment. John and Lyra were escorted from their chamber, surrounded by guards whose eyes watched every movement. The people had gathered. Again, whispering, pointing, some with pity, others with hate. John noticed how different Lyra looked today. Her chin was raised higher, her step sharper, but her golden eyes carried a flicker of unease. He had begun to read her. The way her voice cracked slightly when she was afraid, The way her fists tightened when she tried to hide it, the council. Chamber glowed with blue fire. Elders sat in a half-circle. Their robes shimmered with threads of silver. The High Elder spoke, his voice heavy. The bond between human and Lyran is not yet proven. We will test it further. John frowned. Another test. Haven't we shown enough? But Lyra placed a hand on his armlight. Quick, almost accidental. Do not argue, she whispered. The council will twist your words against you. The first trial that day was of endurance. They were forced to stand within a circle of shifting energy. The air grew colder and hotter by turns. Sparks crackled against their skin. John grit his teeth, but Lyra trembled. He stepped closer, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. The crowd gasped. Some hissed insults, but the circle steadied, glowing brighter. The elders' eyes narrowed. They endured together. The second trial came swiftly. They were placed in a dark chamber filled with illusions. Whispers slithered around them. John heard his commanding officer's voice, telling him he was abandoned. Lyra heard her mother, accusing her of shame. The illusions clawed at their minds. John almost gave in, but he felt Lyra's hand brush his, tentative but real. The illusions broke apart like smoke. When the chamber opened, the crowd was silent. Even those who despised them could not deny what they had seen. Yet in the shadows behind the council, another game was being played. Lyra's cousin, Kalen, watched with cold eyes. He leaned close to one elder and whispered, "They are surviving too well. If the union is completed, the prophecy may awaken." The elder's mouth tightened. Then they must not reach the full moon that night. John sat awake while Lyra pretended to sleep. He could not stop hearing the whispers from the illusion. His officer abandoning him, his people leaving him behind. He wondered if it might come true. But then Lyra's voice broke the silence. "You heard something, didn't you?" John looked at her, surprised. She was still lying down, her eyes closed. But her voice was steady. "I heard my mother's voice," she admitted. "I have not heard it in years, and it accused me. It said I had doomed our bloodline." John leaned closer. "That was a lie. You've done nothing wrong. You're just trapped in their laws like me." Her eyes opened, golden in the dim light. She studied him as if weighing his truth. For a moment, the air between them felt fragile, almost softer. The next morning, the council gathered them for the third trial. This one was not announced to the crowd. It was secret, hidden. John and Lyra were taken to an underground hall, torches burning along the stone walls. The High Elder's voice echoed. "The bond must be tested with danger. You will face a creature of the depths. Only if you survive together will the union be prepared." From the shadows, a beast crawled forward. Scales black as oil, eyes red. Like fire, its hiss rattled the air. John's heart pounded. He had no weapon but a short blade. Lyra had only her sharp staff. They moved apart at first, circling. But the creature struck with lightning speed, forcing them together. John blocked. A strike, Lyra countered with a slash, for the first time. They fought as one. The beast lunged, knocking John down. Lyra screamed. Without thinking, she drove her staff into its eye. The creature roared. John pushed up and stabbed deep into its chest. The beast collapsed, twitching, then stilled, breathing hard. They leaned on each other. Blood streaked Lyra's face. Sweat dripped from John's brow. They had survived again. But when they returned to their chamber, guards whispering about their victory, John noticed something strange. One of the guards avoided his eyes, clutching a rolled parchment too tightly. Hours later, John caught him slipping the parchment. Under Kellen's door, John's gut tightened. Something darker was moving here. Not just laws, not just trials, but conspiracy. That night, as Lyra drifted into uneasy sleep, John made a vow in silence. If they try to kill her again, I will fight all of them. But far in the council hall, Kalen unrolled the parchment. A cruel smile touched his lips. Tomorrow, they will face their final night. They will not live to see the full moon. The moon rose heavy and bright over the city, casting silver light across the temple walls. The bells rang again. But this time the sound was different, slower, heavier, almost like a warning. John and Lyra were taken from their chamber by torchlight. Their guards said nothing. Their faces were pale, as if they too feared what was coming. Lyra walked stiffly, her golden eyes darting left and right. John could feel the tension in her body. They were led into a hidden chamber beneath the temple. The walls were carved with old symbols, glowing faintly blue. A circle of fire surrounded a stone platform. At its center lay two chains, joined together by a single lock. The High Elder stood waiting, his staff glowing with white light around him. Other council members whispered in low voices. Kalen stood among them, his gaze fixed on Lyra, hatred burning in his eyes. The time has come, the Elder declared. Tonight, the bond will be sealed. They will live as one, or they will die as one. John clenched his fists. You can't force this. We've already proven we can survive together. But the Elder's eyes were cold. Survival is not enough. The prophecy demands more. Guards shoved them onto the stone platform. John stumbled, but steadied himself. Lyra hissed, "Do not resist. It will only make them harsher." The chains were fastened to their wrists, the lock glowing with strange light. The platform trembled beneath their feet. A low hum filled the air. The ritual had begun. The Elder's voice echoed. The bond must be tested by truth. Suddenly, the chamber darkened. A vision burst into life around them. The walls melted away, and John found himself standing in a field of fire. He saw soldiers he once fought beside. Their faces were twisted in pain. They reached for him, crying, "You left us. You abandoned us." John's chest tightened. His breath came short. He wanted to shout that it wasn't true. But the guilt clawed at him. Beside him, Lyra stood frozen. She saw her mother again. Her family, all pointing at her. "You betrayed us. You brought shame. You tied our blood to a human?" Lyra's hands shook. Her knees almost gave out. The fire around them grew. The chains burned hot against their skin. The vision was crushing them, forcing their worst fears into the open. John stumbled forward. Reaching for Lyra, his voice cracked. "Their lies. None of this is real. It's what they want us to believe," Lyra gasped, staring at him through the flames. "But it feels real." He grabbed her wrist. "Ignoring the burning chains, then fight it with me. We fight together. Remember the beast. Remember the trials. You're stronger than this." For a heartbeat, Lyra hesitated. Her golden eyes swirled with pain and doubt. But then she stepped forward. Pressing her hand into his, the fire flared once, then shattered like glass. The visions broke apart, leaving only the cold stone chamber. The council gasped. Even Kellen's face twitched in surprise. The Elder frowned deeply. They resisted. The trial of truth, the lock on the chains, glowed brighter, pulsing with light. The Elder raised his staff. Then the bond must be tested with blood. Before John could react, guards stepped forward. Holding sharp daggers, they sliced John's palm, then Lyra's. The blood dripped into the glowing lock. The chains grew hotter, binding tighter. Lyra hissed, clutching her hand. "This is madness." John grit his teeth. "They want to own us. Not just prove a bond. They want control." The lock absorbed the blood, glowing brighter until it was painful to look at. Then the Elder whispered a final word, and the chains vanished, leaving behind a faint mark burned into their wrists. The chamber fell silent. The Elder's voice carried across the hall. It is done. The bond is sealed. From this moment, their lives are tied. If one dies, so does the other. The crowd of priests gasped. Some murmured blessings. Others hissed curses. John looked down at his wrist, the faint glowing mark like a scar. He felt a strange pull in his chest, like his heartbeat was no longer only his own. He looked at Lyra, and she looked back. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with something fierce. Kalen stepped forward suddenly. His voice sharp. This proves nothing. They are chained by false law, not by choice. The elder raised his staff, silencing him. The prophecy binds them now. You cannot break it. But John could see the fury in Kellen's eyes. He knew. The man would not stop. That night, back in their guarded chamber, Lyra sat in silence. Staring at her marked wrist, her voice was low. Do you feel it too? The pull? John nodded slowly, like we share the same breath. Her lips trembled. Then we are no longer just prisoners. We are something else, something they fear, outside their chamber. Kalen whispered to his allies. If they are tied by blood, then blood will end them. Tomorrow we strike, not with chains, not with arrows, but with fire that no bond can stop. The temple city slept under the silver glow of the full moon, but inside the high walls, the air burned with unease. John lay awake on the hard floor of their chamber, his hand pressed to the faint glowing mark on his wrist. It pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat that was not his own. Across the room, Lyra sat upright, her golden eyes reflecting the moonlight through the narrow window. She hadn't spoken for hours, but John could feel her presence in his chest, a pull that wouldn't let him ignore her. Finally, she whispered, Do you feel it too? The bond. John nodded slowly. Yes, it feels like a chain inside, something alive. Lyra's lips trembled. They think this bond will cage us, but it might also give us strength. Before John could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed outside. The guards' voices were sharp, tense, then screams, steel clashing, a cry of fire. John leaped to his feet. The door burst open, smoke curling inside. One guard staggered in, blood on his chest. Run. He gasped. Kalen has betrayed the council. He means to burn you both alive. The guard collapsed before he could say more. The chamber filled with thick smoke. The torches had been doused. But John could already see the glow of flames licking. At the hall outside, Lyra grabbed John's arm, coughing. This way, there's a hidden passage in the wall. She pressed against a stone tile, and with a grind of rock, a narrow gap opened. Smoke billowed in. But it was their only chance. They stumbled through the tunnel. The fires roared, chasing them. Heat licked at their backs. The stone walls trembled. As if the temple itself rejected them, John held Lyra close, guiding her through the darkness. He felt her trembling, not from weakness, but from rage. He will burn our world to prove a lie, she spat. Kalen will not stop until I am ash. The tunnel opened into the outer courtyard. Flames had already spread to the walls. Priests and guards ran in panic. Some fought Kellen's rebels. Others simply fled. Above it all, Kalen stood on a high balcony, his cloak whipping in the smoke. His voice rang out, Destroy the cursed bond. Burn the human and the traitor together. Arrows of fire rained down. John pulled Lyra behind a broken pillar, his voice strained. We can't outrun them, not like this. Lyra's eyes flashed. She held up her wrist, the glowing mark brighter than ever. The bond. It connects us. Maybe it gives us more than pain. Maybe it gives us power. John hesitated. But then he felt it too, the pulsing heat in his wrist, the strange force moving through his chest. It was hers as much as his. Then we use it, he said. Together, they stepped from behind the pillar as the arrows flew. Lyra raised her staff. John raised his arm. The mark on their wrists flared, and suddenly a barrier of light burst from the ground. Arrows shattered against it, fire bent away. The rebels stumbled back in fear. Gasps echoed through the courtyard. Some shouted, "The prophecy." Others fell to their knees. Kellen's face twisted in fury. Lies, illusion. Kill them. He leaped from the balcony, his blade burning red. John met him head-on. Steel clashed, sparks flying. Kalen was fast, his strikes filled with rage. But John fought with a strength that wasn't only his. Every time his blade should have missed, Lyra's voice guided him. Every time Kellen's strike nearly broke him, the bond steadied his hand. Lyra fought too, her staff spinning in arcs of firelight. Each strike echoed through John, as if they were two halves of one weapon. The courtyard became a storm of steel and flame. Then, at last, John caught Kellen's blade. Twisting it aside, Lyra slammed her staff into Kellen's chest. The force threw him back, crashing against the burning wall. He staggered, coughing blood. His voice was venom. "You think the bond saves you? It curses you. It will eat you alive." Before he could strike again, the flames swallowed the wall behind him, the stone cracked, and Kalen vanished into the inferno. Silence fell. Only the crackle of fire remained. The rebels fled, the priests cowered. The High Elder limped forward, his robe scorched. His eyes were wide with fear and awe. "The prophecy is alive," he whispered. "The bond is real. It cannot be broken." John's chest heaved, sweat dripping down his face. He looked at Lyra, her golden eyes locked on his. Their wrists still glowed with the mark. Stronger than ever, Lyra spoke, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We are no longer prisoner and guard, no longer victim and outsider. We are something new." John nodded, his voice rough, "And they fear it." The elder bowed his head. But his words carried warning. "If you live, the world will change, and change brings war." The fire behind them roared higher. The temple walls cracked. The night sky filled with sparks. John and Lyra stood in the center of it all, bound by blood, by law, by something even deeper. And though the world outside raged with fear, for the first time, neither of them felt alone.